C5 pedestrian-oriented project, refocusing the existing urban fabric for pedestrians and commuters. Our chosen site is the Circumferential Road 5, also known as C5. It is a network of roads and bridges that traverses through Quezon City, Makati, Parañaque, Taguig, Pasig, Marikina, and Valenzuela. We are focusing on the Quezon City segment, considering it is the largest among the others. So the reason why this proposal is needed is that it highlights the importance of walkability, since it has been overlooked by the priority of finding solutions for traffic issues here in the Philippines. Therefore, the quality of pedestrian infrastructures have been compromised, which will affect the experience and safety of pedestrians that will prompt them to buy vehicles instead. Pedestrians may risk their lives to jaywalk without using infrastructures since they may be inadequate or not safe to use. With walking and commuting seen as a hassle, pedestrians will opt to drive to their destinations instead, which will add and contribute to the traffic problems even more.
Approach and context. First of all, the guidelines for the sidewalk design need to be reconsidered because we've discovered that some of them are too narrow and some of them are inaccessible to the PWD. Next, there needs to be a clear incentive for the user to utilize the sidewalk for its intended purpose. There needs to be a benefit that is clear to the end user, and as of right now, a lot of the end users don't even use the sidewalks because they don't see the benefit in it. And third, walking has been undervalued thanks to the need of using a car, and we need to change that. Uh, we're going to change it through basically trying to enhance the experience of the user. And finally, there is a need to understand the behavior. We need to understand why the pedestrians aren't exactly using these facilities, and then we can recommend better ways. For the statement of the problem, the C5 is known as, first of all, one of the worst road stretches. Second, pedestrian structures are made just for the sake of purpose. They're basically just there to not enhance the experience, but just there for the sake of being a function. And it's not even doing that properly. Third, waiting sheds invite informal settlers. This also includes vandalism, and the end users who need to use them, for example at night, aren't able to use them because informal settlers use these areas, such as the sheds, to sleep. Four, large cases of jaywalking. Now, why is this? It's because, like said a while ago, the sidewalks are too narrow, and some it's full of obstacles, and our pedestrians can't use them properly. Number four and number five, insufficient waiting sheds, and there aren't enough existing pedestrian overpasses. There's a problem. For example, steep steps. They're easily vandalized. They're made of metal materials, which become slippery when wet. This becomes a hazard. And finally, there's no roofing. This can be linked to what was said a while ago. The end users don't see the benefit. What if it rains? The sunlight is too harsh, and the pedestrian overpass doesn't serve its full purpose because of this. And finally, heavy traffic.
For our consideration, we wanted to think about the current situation brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a result to that, physical distancing is something that we considered. So second, we have safety and security. This is to ensure that individuals using pedestrian infrastructure would be free from worry and hazard. So next, we have comfortability and convenience when commuting. So this makes it more accessible and easier to use. And lastly, a sense of place, which makes the pedestrian feel like they're part of the urban fabric since most projects are focused on roads and vehicular transportation. So all of these in mind would encourage individuals to use walking and commuting as their modes of transportation. Moving on to the proposals and strategies, we have provided seven, and that is to provide more spaces for pedestrians to walk, to make pedestrian infrastructures more PWD friendly, to encourage the use of bikes, to provide sufficient amount of waiting sheds for commuters, to prevent vandalism on waiting shed and increase security at night, to convert pedestrian movement into sustainable energy, and to provide a safer pedestrian crossing.
Proposal and strategies. Following the current guidelines and possible modification in the current health protocols, these solutions are made, such as widening of pedestrian bridges up to 3 to 4 meters, closing of narrow pedestrian bridges, and to establish suitable spacing between seating of waiting sheds. So the following images are the strategies of multimodal street design, which includes wider sidewalks for better visibility and social distancing, allocation of bike lanes to encourage alternative modes of transportation, and lastly, dedicated drop-off points for commuters and deliveries.
So this is our overpass design along C5. In the normal designs of the overpass that we have looked throughout C5, since the lanes of the overpass are small for the pedestrians to cross, we have increased the length of the lanes for more pedestrians to cross and had bike lanes to encourage people with bikes from crossing the street to bring their bikes to the other side of the road. In addition, to avoid informal settlers and other people from loitering on the overpass, we have provided segmented routes.
The proposal for the waiting shed gives more emphasis on preventing vandalism and loitering. Less walls are used to give less chances for spray painting and such. Instead of benches, the shed makes use of leaning stands for commuters to lean on and slightly tilted single seats to make sure it is not used for a long time. The seats are also far apart from each other for social distancing. The waiting shed also includes a digital map for information, lights for late night commute, and CCTV camera for security, which are all powered up by solar panels installed on the roof of the shed. Other strategies include kinetic tiles and laser-aided crosswalks. Kinetic tiles are tiles installed along sidewalks and surfaces where people walk onto and converts the energy of their movement into sustainable energy to power up structures and street infrastructure along C5, which will have less impact on the environment. The laser-aided crosswalks will make crossing the street safer by using a laser system that creates projections on the ground that acts as visual aid to both crossers and drivers, giving them a prominent signal on when to cross or when to stop.